He just bought a new driver. Third one this year. The first one wasn't the right shaft flex. The second had a loft problem he only noticed after 6 rounds. This one is different. He knows it in the store. He can feel it in the grip before he's even swung it. The guy at the counter confirms it. That's the one. He gets to the range. He's still hitting it left. If you've played golf for any length of time, you know this man. Maybe you are this man. And there's a whole psychology running underneath that shopping cart that nobody in golf talks about. Because the golf industry has a very specific reason not to. Let's start with the numbers. The global golf equipment market is worth roughly $10.5 billion. Clubs alone account for about 45% of that. Every spring, companies release a new driver, marketed as the longest ever made. The ads show tour pros launching at 320 yards. The physics look like science. The language sounds like a promise, and the data says it doesn't work. Arccos Golf tracks tens of millions of real rounds. In 2018, the average male golfer hit driver 224 yards. In 2025, after 8 years of breakthrough driver releases, the average was 224.1 yards, 1/10 of a yard. The needle didn't move. The marketing budget did, so why does he keep buying? That's not a golf question. That's a psychology question. In 2020, researchers published a meta-analysis of 69 studies covering more than 10,000 athletes. What they found wasn't surprising to anyone who's watched sport up close. Athletes consistently attribute success to internal factors, skill, preparation, mental strength, and attribute failure to external factors, weather, officiating, equipment. The effect was moderate to large. And here's the part that matters for our guy at the range. An earlier study found that individual sport athletes were significantly more likely to show this pattern than team sport athletes. Golf was one of the named examples. In a team sport, there are other people to absorb the blame. A teammate who dropped the pass. A defense that broke down. In golf, there's only you, the ball, and whatever you're holding when it goes wrong. The club is the only available scapegoat. Psychologists have a name for what he's doing. It's not self-deception, it's something more precise. It's called self-handicapping, first described by Burgess and Jones in 1978. Self-handicapping is any behavior or belief that lets you protect your self-image by creating a ready-made explanation for failure before the failure even happens. Saying, "My driver is off," before the round. Mentioning the new shaft. Arriving at the first tee. Already building the exit ramp. And here's what makes it stick. It works. Short term, it works perfectly. Your ego stays intact. The scorecard doesn't define you. You walk off the 18th green with your identity undamaged because you already explained the result before it happened. The problem is what it costs you over time. Mark Brody, a professor at Columbia Business School and the researcher who developed the strokes gained methodology, analyzed PGA Tour data and found that shots from over 100 yards approach play account for about 2/3 of the scoring variability between golfers. Putting, which is what most amateurs obsess over, accounts for roughly 15% of the difference. The strokes are being lost in the middle of the hole. Not on the green. Not off the tee. In the approach, that's the part that only gets better through practice. Deliberate, repetitive, uncomfortable practice where you hit the same shot badly 40 times before you understand why. But if the club is the problem, you don't practice. You upgrade. And this is where the psychology becomes expensive in more than one way. Research on self-handicapping is consistent on one finding. While it protects self-esteem short-term, it contributes to long-term stagnation. It discourages effort. If the club is the variable, then more practice isn't the answer, a better club is. The belief that makes failure feel okay is the exact same belief that makes improvement impossible. He's been a 14 handicap for 6 years. He doesn't know why. Now, there's a version of this that deserves more honesty than it usually gets, and that's the older player. Arccos data shows driving distance falls steeply with age. The difference between a golfer in his 20s and one in his 70s is more than 100 yards. That's not psychology, that's physics. Muscle loss. slower rotation, real, measurable decline. So when a 60-year-old buys a lighter shaft and says he needs the distance back, he's not entirely wrong. The body has changed. Some of that distance is gone, and no amount of practice retrieves it. But here's where it gets tangled. The equipment industry markets directly into that grief. Distance back is one of the most reliable phrases in golf advertising. And for the aging player, that marketing lands differently, because part of it is true. The harder question, the one the fitting appointment never asks, is whether the new club is solving the physics problem or protecting him from the emotional one. Whether it's a tool or a story, sometimes it's both. And the two are very hard to separate when you're standing in a shop being told this shaft was designed specifically for players like you. Here's the counterintuitive part, and it matters. In 2011, researchers at the University of Virginia ran a study. They gave golfers a putter and told half of them it had previously been owned by a professional golfer named Ben Curtis. The other half were told nothing. Same putter, different belief. The golfers who thought they were holding a pros club perceived the hole as larger and sank significantly more putts. Same putter, different brain, different result. The belief about the club changed the outcome, which means the instinct isn't pure delusion. There's a real mechanism. Equipment confidence is a real psychological variable. The problem isn't that belief matters, it does. The problem is which direction that belief is running. In the self-handicapping version, belief runs away from accountability. You're not building confidence, you're building cover. The equipment belief protects you from the risk of trying hard and still failing by ensuring you never fully commit to the idea that you are the variable. There's a moment, usually somewhere around year 3 or 4 of the same handicap, where the cover starts to slip. He knows. He doesn't say it to his playing partners, but he's starting to hear the sentence in his own head, and it sounds a little thin. It's the clubs. He's replaced every club in the bag. He's tried 5 different shafts. He's been fitted twice. And the round last Saturday was a 91. Again, that moment when the excuse runs out of air is the most important moment in a golfer's development. Most people don't recognize it as an opportunity. It feels like defeat. It feels like the last story you told yourself just collapsed. But underneath the defeat is something that wasn't there before. An opening. The USGA tracked handicap data over 25 years. In that window, with all of the equipment advances, launch monitor technology, and instruction available, the average men's handicap dropped from 16.3 to 14.4, less than 2 strokes in a quarter century. The tools got dramatically better. The player barely moved, because the tools were never the variable the player wanted them to be. It's not a new driver. It's not a different shaft. It's the willingness to be bad at something in front of yourself, without explaining it away, for long enough that your body figures out what your mind keeps interrupting. The golfers who improve tend to share one characteristic. They have a relatively honest accounting of where the strokes go. They know their approach game is the problem. They know their 7-iron is going left because of what their hands do at impact, not because the 7-iron has a grudge against them. They go to the range, and they work on the thing that's broken, even though it's harder and more humbling than swiping a credit card. That's not a golf skill. That's a character trait. The man with 3 drivers this year isn't stupid. He's not weak. He's doing exactly what the human brain is designed to do when it faces a threat to its self-image. He's finding the nearest external explanation and attaching the result to it. Athletes have been doing this across every sport, in every culture, for as long as humans have kept score. The golf industry just built a $10.5 billion ecosystem around it. The Ben Curtis putter study tells us something worth holding on to. Belief is a real variable in performance. It matters what you think you're holding. But there's a version of that belief that serves you genuine confidence built from genuine improvement, and a version that traps you in a loop of protected mediocrity. One makes the hole look bigger, because you've earned the right to see it that way. The other makes the hole look bigger until the round starts. And then you're standing over a 4-iron from 175 yards, wondering why the number on the shaft isn't doing more work. The clubs aren't the problem, but they were never supposed to be. The real question underneath all of it, underneath the fitting appointments and the new driver smell, and the moment in the store where this one feels different, is this. What would it mean to play your honest game? Not the game you'd play with better clubs. The game you've actually got, right now, with the swing you've built, on the course as it is today. That's a harder question than the one at the equipment counter, but it's the only one with an honest answer. And somewhere around year 6 of the same handicap, most guys start to wonder why nobody asked it earlier. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.